Okay, we're ready to reinstall the drive. New gasket on there. Also the O-ring, although this is the old one, is greased in place so that it won't fall out during the installation. Also we've selected forward gear on the control console, and that pulls the slide back and aligns the intermediate shift shaft here. We've got a shoe that will align with the shift shaft in the drive. That has to slide on forward. As that slides in and out for selecting gear, it rotates the shoe. If you're not in forward gear on the shaft, the shoe is off like that and they won't mate up. They have to be straight like that so it goes in. That's why we're in forward gear. You'll also notice that I've got the trim rams all tied up so that they're nice and level. This makes things a lot simpler. Okay, I've also put plenty of grease on those bolts because that's a cavity that water gets into, and then the salt sits in there and does its little thing. So we've got the drive here. And we just sit it on the floor. We've greased up the splines that will go into the coupler. I've also put a layer of grease on the front of the drive shaft housing. If it's there for a long time and this gasket leaks and you get water in there, this grease is just going to make it so much easier to get off. You'll also see this is the shaft, the shift shaft here. If we turn the propeller clockwise, anti-clockwise, and the shift shaft clockwise, we go into forward gear and we lock on the dogs. If we then move it forward, you'll see it moves the shaft. So we need to make sure that wherever we move the propeller shaft, we don't go forward, we only go backwards. Now that may be necessary as we slide the shaft into the coupler. The splines may not match up, so we'll just give the propeller a turn in reverse. That'll turn the shaft and the coupler splines will line up nicely. The other thing is, when you replace these O-rings here, they're quite a bit bigger in outside diameter than the inside of the gimbal bearing. So you put a bit of oil on there, don't grease them up because the grease will get inside and stop you compressing the O-ring. Sometimes when you reach that far, you'll be this far away, so we'll be looking about a 1-inch gap there, and you'll think, oh, it's not going on any further. It's just hanging up on these O-rings. So we need to give it a bit more of a persuasion. We have a thing called a Merkick, which is a size 9 calibrated installation tool. So what we're going to do now, we've got our driving forward, we've got the shift shaft pointing forward. We're just going to offer this up, put the spline shaft into the gimbal bearing there, and then just slip it forward, keeping the universals straight and making sure that the slider doesn't slip. Just give it a bit of a turn. You can see the universal's moving there. It still doesn't want to go in, so we give it a bit more. There it is there. And just making sure the slide goes into the cavity in the drive there, and just okay, we've now reached a point where the splines are trying to engage in the coupler, and that's what's stopping it going any further. So we give it a turn. That's it. All the way on. 6 nuts. The trim rams, and the job is complete. I'll just do a couple of these nuts up, and then we'll put the trim ram on, and you can see how the job is. A 5/8 socket, 35 to 40 foot-pounds of torque on those bolts. I then take the lines off the trim rams. That's it. One last thing to do is reconnect our speedo feed. That just goes in here. Clicks into position. And that is the installation of an Alpha drive.